The small built-in wall air conditioner in the corner of the Sally Jack's kitchen inn spat occasional droplets of cool water onto the back of Sugar Poppa's neck as he stood washing dishes in the corner. The steamy Savannah morning was insulated by that small and useful air conditioner in the dark corner by the long white sink. It was one of Sugar Poppa's tasks to wash the utensils, cups, plates, bowls, and pans that did not make it into the industrial dishwasher, and he enjoyed doing it. He scrubbed a fork, then bread and butter plates, then carefully wiped the inside of a white coffee cup with a rag. The rhythmic motion of the wiping had a soothing and satisfying effect on his brain, as though the action created the feeling of, yeah, this feels right. And he did this job with quiet gratification. When he had finished and placed the washed dishes in the drying rack, he took up the mop from the corner and methodically began to wipe the brown tile kitchen floors and industrial brown rubber mat in front of the sink. There is no shame in any honest work, his grandmama Queenie Royal used to say. And indeed, Anthony Sugar Poppa took comforting ease from such chores. The tasks of the inn were tasks he enjoyed. A delivery man signaled to Sugar Poppa from the window near the back door kitchen entrance, and Shug put the mop aside to attend to the men outside and the produce delivery. The smell of fresh tomatoes, strawberries, romaine, and iceberg lettuce, cantaloupe, cucumbers, combined with the smell of the damp, collapsing cardboard of their boxes, entered the kitchen as the two worked to bring it all inside. Sugar Poppa checked off the merchandise on the packing slip from the delivery man and handed it back to him, thanking him very kindly. Back in the day, they used to deliver these goods in balsa wooden crates. An old 5x7 black and white photograph of Sugar Poppa sitting on just such a stack of those wooden crates existed to prove it. The photograph had been a permanent fixture near the front desk in the lobby of what is Sally Jack's Inn. A young man and guest photographer had taken it long ago, framed it, and given it as a gift. The photo had remained there in a place of honor for 30 years, near other photos of the buildings, people, and streets of the historic district of Savannah. Sugar Poppa had been at Sally Jack's ever since he was a young man, and he had earned his place in posterity. He had started as a dishwasher and errand runner after he had gotten out of the Navy, and he had never left. The 5x7 black and white photograph shows a young Anthony Cleveland Washington as a slim, tall, long-legged, long-armed young man with short, neat hair, a clean white undershirt, and wearing a white apron, while relaxing on a pile of wooden crates for a cigarette break. You could say it was a striking photograph. If nothing else, it forced the viewer to stop and wonder what it was they saw in the young man's large and liquid eyes. Did they see sadness, longing, a deep knowledge and understanding of hardship, awaiting, ways questions only he knew? But the eyes, yes, although there was nothing unusual about Anthony, his eyes were certainly extraordinary in an unnameable way. Anthony's eyes were large, deep, dark, and gentle. Beautiful, really. When Jack, the husband of Sally, had passed away from liver cancer and had left Sally with all of the responsibility of running the inn, Sally now found she was the sole owner of 4 historic homes on 2 narrow cobblestone streets of Savannah, with a very busy hospitality to run. Jack had loved the liquor, had been a pleasant man, a true people lover, a Southern gentleman, and a connoisseur of antiques and fine food. Jack accommodated guests and visitors for boozy hours with stories of the ghosts peculiar to Sally Jacks. He entertained them with his opinion of politics, religion, and misty-eyed he would recount all the celebrities and politicians he had ever met over the years. He was beloved by all, good to his staff, and his wife Sally had never criticized his drinking, but treated him with the unconditional respect and pride. She often made brief visits into the lounge herself to check on and make a fuss over Jack, and it was impossible not to see the true affection the couple had for one another. But Jack had not been much for practical chores. His answer to problems presented by an anxious Sally to Jack at the bar had often been the checkbook. "Bring me the checkbook, Sally," he would say in his southern drawl in most situations, to which Sally would respond with an exasperated drop of her shoulder. Or he would offer some improbable or impractical suggestion thought up while in the fanciful stew of the present liquored state. "I have some friends in New York I can ask. I'll call them tomorrow," he would say, and offering a reassuring pat with his trembling and genteel claw of a hand. Deeming the matter settled, he would look down with milky, alcohol-stewed eyes then into his tumbler of sweaty whiskey, the bar lights reflecting off his silver hair and the tiny flecks of dandruff on the shoulders of his light blue sport coat. Satisfied with the wisdom of his solutions, he would punctuate them with a sip of his drink and a pleased and imperious smile on his lips. Calls promised to be made would be forgotten by the next day in the bourbon stew of the evening, and calls would never be made. Sally and others were fairly left to their own to handle immediate problems that arose. Somehow, Sally's practicality, the staff's affection for both Sally and Jack, and the help from a business-savvy nephew and niece helped it all to come together to make Sally Jack's Inn at Savannah a fixture and a consistently wonderful place to visit. Guests were treated like family. One could feel comfortable being elegant or casual. Thus sailed the ship that was Sally Jack's. A very low turnover of staff was testament to the steady energy and decency that could be found in the grand dame of Sally. Conscientious work, punctuality, and fair treatment was what Sally expected and modeled herself. She rose tirelessly every day to greet the breakfast guests with eggs, muffins, fruit, cereal, and coffee and juice in the brick breakfast room that was lined with ancient timbers and a fireplace. Daily, she greeted and chatted with and checked in guests while skillfully managing the housekeeping and kitchen staff. Sally had also found invaluable steady help and comfort in the presence of Anthony, who seemed to quietly arrive just in time to provide whatever was needed for the running of the inn, whether it was a light fixture, helping the handyman with a plumbing problem, or lack of cook or waitstaff, or Jack at the bar. Anthony had carefully and kindly helped Jack retire to his room on more than one occasion after a lengthy stretch of cocktails and socializing. Anthony's quiet appearance when Jack had had enough and was beginning to stumble or slur was the sign that all would be well. "You've got some important business matters needed your attention in the other room, Mr. Jack," Anthony would say. "Let's say good night to these good people now." That was Jack's cue, and he never pushed back, but elegantly acquiesced to Anthony's helping arm as he bade the guests a sweet and gracious good night, and they, smiling over their drinks in the dim light of the bar, collectively bade him a "Good night, Jack." Anthony and Jack made their way out of the bar, Anthony watching Jack's footing and Jack smiling grandly and drunkenly and nodding and waving regally to the patrons. They would make their way to Jack's first-floor bedroom, where Jack would carefully be placed in the chair next to the fireplace. "Good night, sir," Anthony would say. "Good night, Anthony," Jack gratefully would reply from his chair, glass in hand, as he happily slipped into oblivion until Sally could come later and get him into bed. It was the same over and over many years of nights. Yes, Anthony had become a highly respected and beloved man over the years at Sally Jack's Inn of Savannah. He was comfortable with his purpose, his work, and his life. Sally Jack's consisted of 4 historic buildings, 3-story buildings sitting on 2 streets. The main building was constructed from ships' ballasts from the 1700s. Rich, gleaming wood beams ran the length of the downstairs that housed the check-in desk, breakfast room, restaurant, and lounge. Bricks made up the walls and were decorated with depictions of Savannah gone by. It was said that Sally Jack's was haunted, if only gently haunted. End of part 1.